Hi, everyone. Yeah, I've been putting together a few resources for Zoom, partly just as a kind of tutorial for how to use this for performance. Also, trying to explore the features and how we might create work on Zoom, hopefully to inspire people to use the medium as something that opens up creative possibilities rather than something where you're just trying to fit a square show into a round medium. And as part of that, there's a few sort of features and things that I need to kind of run through that I can't do on a Zoom meeting by myself. So if you'll bear with me, I just need to do a few things where I put you into the waiting room, bring you back in to the meeting, and split everybody into breakout rooms. So yeah, I'm just going to be sort of like moving you around a little bit and sort of demonstrating how that works, so that we can then talk about maybe we can all sort of come back into this room once I've moved some people around, and we can talk through how some of these features might be used in a show. Partly to look at how a front of house experience could be managed. So you get to recreate some of those cool things about a front of house experience, and how you might use breakout rooms to create different performance spaces during a show or before and after a show as well. So bear with me for a little while. I'm going to pop you now into the waiting room, and then I'll bring you back in a couple of minutes. So I'm just bringing up that menu now where I've got everybody, all of the participants. And in order to put everyone back into the waiting room, I'm going to have to go into everybody pretty much one by one. So this is part of the problem with this program, is that often you have to do things one by one and put people into a waiting room. Like so. So I'm just basically going one by one and throwing everybody into the meeting room. And I might even just leave it at that. So that just gives you an idea. We can pretend that we have some people in the house. Perhaps our performers are already in the meeting, and we have our audience that are waiting to be admitted. What I can then do then is I can actually message everybody in the waiting room, which none of you will see, but everybody else will. Hello. You all. Waiting room. Show will begin 2 minutes. So I've just sent them a couple of messages. So I'm basically able to, from while I'm inside the meeting here, message everybody in the waiting room. And I can kind of prepare them, basically. I can tell them what to expect when they're about to enter the show. I can also create breakout rooms now. But if I automatically create breakout rooms and automatically assign people, it'll assign people in the breakout rooms to those. It'll assign people in the waiting room to those breakout rooms, and then they'll get stuck potentially, because they won't be able to actually get into those rooms if they've been assigned while they're in the waiting room. So I'll just assign people manually, and I'll create 3 rooms. And I'll leave those there, and I will admit everybody. Hello and welcome to the main performance. Thank you for joining us. While you were gone, everybody in the waiting room, I was just, as you might have seen, demonstrating that I can message people in the waiting room while they're waiting, as well as giving updates to when you're about to start the performance. You can also give people instructions as to what to expect when they enter. Now, this meeting has got mute everybody upon entry as a setting. If you don't need to have that, it just is a way that particularly if you're about to do an announcement, you can just sort of kick it all off with everybody muted. I think it depends on the kind of show that you want. I think there's an argument for keeping everybody unmuted as they enter the space, so that you sort of encourage conversation. The other thing you can do is you can bring people in from the waiting room one by one or a few by a few. And I've actually got breakout rooms sort of already created. So another way that I could do this is to have just brought one or two of you into like this main space. And then once you're in this main space, I can assign you to a breakout room. Now, I know you can't see my screen at the moment, but I'm just going to show you some of the settings. And there's a setting that says move participants to breakout rooms automatically, which means you don't get an option when I decide to move you about. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to split you up into a couple of different rooms and sort of demonstrate how I can then move performers between those rooms. So I'm first going to assign Paul and Tash into a room. And I'm just going to, that's Anywhere Festival there, and where is Tash? There. So that's those done. And then I'm just going to put everybody else in a couple of different rooms. And now I've assigned everybody, I will open up these rooms. And that should send you all away. Everybody has gone into their spaces. So it's just me. And this is our performers in here. We can call this backstage potentially. I could have renamed them earlier. And now I'll join this room, and you'll see me Let me just get that and that. Takes a few moments to actually go from room to room. And here I am. Hello. I've moved you into the backstage, and now I'm going to move you into these two rooms so that you can then go in and be the performer entering that space and facilitating some conversation. So I'll move you to breakout room 2, Paul. Bye-bye. All right, Tash, I am now moving you to the other breakout room 3, where you can be the performer arriving to stage. Okay, so now I have sent them off on their way, and I am here. I can leave breakout room 1, leaving it empty. Returns me to the main session. So there's always a main session area, even when there is, even when there are breakout rooms. Everyone does not have to be in them. You can be in the main area as well. So this is my breakout rooms here. I can broadcast a message. Message. All rooms will be back in the main space in 2 minutes. So that gives them a countdown. You can also, of course, use this broadcast thematically. You have 2 minutes to reach minimum safety zone before the complex explodes, or whatever your theme is. And you can't just close one room at a time. You can move people around. So I can move these people one by one between rooms, which is why it's better to move performers around. Or you could just sort of close it and everybody ends up back in the same space. So if you're doing a show where you're going into a whole bunch of separate spaces and then back to a main space, then you can you have to do that. Like everyone goes into the separate spaces and then everyone's back in the main space. It's sort of one or the other. All All right, so let's go back to everybody in the main space. One more note on this is that after a performance, this can be also a lot of fun. If you have 60 or 70 people in your audience, you can automatically break them up into rooms of 10, and they can chat. It's sort of easier to chat if you're in a smaller group. So for post-show chat or pre-show chat, these breakout rooms are really handy. And you can monitor them and see how many people are in each one. And when it gets down to only a few people, you can move them into another room, or you can jump into that room, say, "Hi, everyone, would you like to move to another room?" And then sort of send them across and sort of like jump into the rooms from one to the one, one room to another as you go. So I've just clicked close rooms, and now I have this countdown. You can change that countdown. And decide whether you want that to be a 5-second countdown or a 10-second countdown. But people will start jumping in because they have the option to click to leave the room as soon as you click the option to close rooms. So hello, people who have clicked the button to return.
Hello.
Welcome back to the main space. We'll see how many people survived and haven't decided that they're just going to leave the meeting. Is this everybody we have? That's everybody that we have. All right. So we've lost a few. Interesting.
They'll work it out.
Yeah.
So that might take, we got a message that says you'll be moved automatically in 50 seconds. So we press the button.
Yeah, they might just wait.
Yeah, true. Yeah, they might just be waiting. Oh, yeah, here we go. Now they're all flooding in at the end of that 60 seconds. Great. There everybody is. Excellent. So that's sort of breakout rooms and waiting rooms in a nutshell. And then some of the other sort of elements are obviously we're all in this sort of, is everybody in a view where they're seeing all of the windows?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
So the other thing to do is spotlight video, where I can decide that all of a sudden we want everyone to look at Paul, so I can spotlight him. There you go, Paul. You're the star of the show now. And then I can
always drink of.
I can flick through and spotlight Tash just as she's drinking. Cheers. And in this way, I basically become the editor of a live broadcast. I'm just going to cancel the spotlight video, which actually leaves it in this other view. So I actually have to click gallery view to go back to gallery view. So is everyone back in gallery view, or are they still stuck in speaker?
In gallery.
How to on gallery view.
This is really helpful. This is really helpful. Thank you.
So being able to switch between views also means you can have several people in your meeting that have different camera angles. So you can sort of flick back and have dramatic conversations and have one person talking and then another person talking, and it creates scenes that way. The other way to sort of help create scenes is the background, the virtual background function, which I'll go in now. I'll see if I can find a similar one so that Paul and I can be in a similar. There we go. I'm in a forest as well. Assuming these were similar forests, we could be talking in a forest together. And
there was an elf just walking through the forest.
Yeah. So you can set your scenes and set your drama in different background settings. What one thing you'll notice about this is that it's a computer algorithm trying to figure out where my hand or arm is. If you have a green screen, you can put one behind you and it will map this a lot better. You won't have the algorithm problem, so you can do a really proper sort of background and then swap that out.
Just let you know that there's another Zoom meeting happening at the computer next to me. So if we...
Yeah, you probably will get cut off.
Yeah,
totally.
I already sent Opera Queensland to the spare room.
Mm-hmm.
My husband's Opera Queensland's technical manager. He's doing sing, sing, sing in the next room on Zoom.
Can I offer a little bit of info on the
Yes, please.
background stuff, which is that
Yep.
there is a recommended processing power for your computer to do that background.
Yeah.
So when I try to do it on mine, it brings up a big button like it's not going to work the way that you want it to. So that's like, it depends on what kind of setup people have at their individual locations as to whether or not that is a viable option for them.
Yeah, if you don't just have the latest kind of operating systems, it's only sort of back compatible to a couple of different versions. So yeah, every computer won't be able to do that for sure. You need to make sure you have the technical ability before using that feature. So that's also kind of important if you're going to have an audience where you want to encourage them to have virtual backgrounds. It's a way of dressing up. If you're wanting to do that, just be aware there's people that won't be able to.